Where do you think this pressure to be constantly productive is coming from? And is it getting worse?
That is a great question. I think we're still in this habit of just wanting to be more and more productive. That I think most people haven't taken a step back on why are we actually doing this. And I think there's this idea that we've really internalized that if we're not being productive, we're slacking and we're not contributing, we're being a person. And this pressure to be constantly productive is not only growing, but I think it's really becoming more and more deeply embedded in how we define our own self-worth, how we define success, or even morality in today's kind of work culture. I know I personally feel guilty a lot of times when I'm just relaxing or working in the garden, and instead of doing some work, like there's a little voice in my head, it's like, there's a couple of emails you haven't done yet, or there's this work coming. Why aren't you doing that? And so this pressure to be productive, it's just becoming more and more baked into our lives at that sort of structural, cultural, and psychological level. And it's a really difficult thing to unwind. And so if I can just kind of dig a little bit deeper into kind of these three layers on where it's actually coming from. At the surface or that top layer, we have some of these kind of really visible drivers, things like the workload that we're given or the expectations for a job. If you are in particular industries, you just know you have to work. There's that expectation that you work a lot, or even the way that the organizations measure performance. There's still a lot of organizations out there who still track productivity by the number of hours worked, and or how often you're in the office, or now they even track how often that little green light is next to your name on chats. So even if you're kind of working quite smart and getting great results, what kind of gets rewarded is how busy you look. And so we've created these kind of work environments where being busy is equated with being productive. And so busyness rather than output is what gets rewarded.